Well, the clock is ticking on Capitol Hill as congressional lawmakers prepare to break for their traditional August recess on Thursday night. There's still plenty left on the docket, including ongoing hangups over the bill that sets Pentagon policy. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us with the very latest on that. Good to see you, Nikole. Today, as you know, the Senate will resume consideration of the National Defense Authorization Act. What are some of the hangups there?
It's not so much hangups. I mean, obviously, we saw in the House much of the hangups were over controversial provisions that were added to this measure. I mean, keep in mind, this is a gargantuan bill. It's worth about $800 billion to fund the Pentagon and guide its policy. So this is always kind of a massive piece of legislation that is difficult for both chambers. You know, in the House, a lot of this had to do with, controversial provisions around abortion, around gender-affirming care, around diversity initiatives. In the Senate, while there may be some lawmakers who would like to see some of those provisions in the bill, it's really just how massive it is that they do want to make adjustments, put in a number of amendments, less controversial than what we saw in the House. But, this is a bill that typically has dozens, if not hundreds of amendments. So bottom line, it just takes some time to work through them.
I want to turn now to Speaker Kevin McCarthy. During a Fox News interview yesterday, the House Speaker raised the possibility of a potential impeachment inquiry into President Biden. What are you hearing about that? How likely is that to even happen?
Well, keep in mind that House Republicans have launched a number of investigations looking into the Biden family dealings. You have the House Oversight Committee, you've got the House Ways and Means Committee, you've got the House Judiciary Committee, among others. And so this is part of an ongoing line of threat that we have seen from House Republicans threatening impeachment, for instance, against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, against Attorney General Merrick Garland. And now it appears that the Speaker may be ratcheting up the stakes by even suggesting the president himself could be impeached. A lot of this stems, as I mentioned, into these ongoing probes into the Biden family business dealings. What Republicans in particular are concerned about has to do with some recent testimony, for instance, from a pair of IRS agents. And so some of what they testified about, in Republicans' view, doesn't square with what they're hearing from the Justice Department. There's also these issues of, various payments that they allege that were being made through some of the Biden family business dealings and dealing with international entities. So I know it sounds very complex, but that is kind of the underpinnings of what Republicans are getting at. And in their view, they feel someone is not necessarily being truthful, although we have seen no evidence of wrongdoing by the president. So right now, it may be more talk than actual action.
Speaking of the Justice Department, they sent a letter to Congressman Jim Jordan, who chairs the Judiciary Committee, over concerns about the probe he is leading into the Hunter Biden investigation. The letter, as you see on your screen there, says, quote, "We are deeply concerned by any misrepresentations about our work, whether deliberate or arising from misunderstandings that could unduly harm public confidence in the even-handed administration of justice to which we are dedicated." I don't know about you, Nikole, but I've never heard of them feeling as though they need to issue this letter to sort of justify the process. What misrepresentation do you think the DOJ is specifically referring to there?
Well, what's interesting is it seems that the Justice Department seems relatively eager to have this U.S. Attorney David Weiss testify and appear before Congress, in their view, to kind of set the record straight. As I referenced in our last exchange, one of the lines of investigation that House Republicans are pursuing stems from this tax investigation into Hunter Biden. You had these whistleblowers who testified on Capitol Hill who felt that Hunter Biden got special treatment because he was President Biden's son, and that he should have been potentially charged with more counts that he was. They feel that this plea deal that he recently agreed to didn't go far enough and was weak. And so one of their arguments is that the prosecutor in this case, David Weiss, was denied special counsel powers, and that they argue that he did have the authority potentially to bring forth stronger charges. And so the Justice Department is kind of pushing back against that, saying, look, hear from our attorney for yourselves because, we don't necessarily agree with your view, and that is something that this attorney, David Weiss, has also denied. So again, this is more about trying to set the record straight on the part of the Justice Department, and they even offered some dates in late September and early October for the attorney to testify. So we'll see if the committee takes him up on their offer. Jerika.
Nikole Killion, thank you so much for your time.